Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. We continue our Timken Hangar build. You can call it a series, but it's not really a series. I'm just recording as I'm building and putting them up there just so you guys can pick out things that you want to know or look on how I do things and say, no, let's do I'm going to do that better. Anyway, so last time we finished the framing for the roof. I said I was going to work on the purlins, which are the supports on top of the trusses that run perpendicular to the trusses. This edge right here that I have selected is the construction line that I'm going to use for the purlins as I put them over the roof. I didn't get to those. Life got in the way, had some things that I needed to get done. I'll work on those at another time, but we're still kind of working on the framing, and I'm trying to figure out which method I want to go. All right, so what I'll show you here in a second. Let's select this truss right here. Let's go into edit mode, and let me turn my cast on. Okay, we have cast. All right, so I'm going to go in. I am in edit mode. I want to go to Vertices and Ghost. Select that vertice down there in that corner. I think I'll actually select this. Actually, that's where my 3D cursor is already, so that's good. That's really all I was trying to get to, is that where my 3D cursor was. Now, okay, so in construction of any kind, obviously you're going to have some kind of support for the trusses, right? In a house, this is usually like a 2x4 frame for a house, and then the trusses actually sit on the top plate. Okay, you can have metal studs, or you can have wood studs. Doesn't really matter. All right, but for these commercial type of buildings, you notice that we stopped the truss at the wall, if you remember when we constructed that. Usually in this type of construction, this is a concrete block wall, all right, and the truss will actually sit on top of the wall, on top of that concrete wall, or there'll be a notch inside. They'll notch out this wall, and then that truss fits into a pocket. All right, that's another way, and that's kind of how I have it envisioned for this. And then they lay the blocks all the way up to the ceiling. Okay, that's the construction that I am picturing for this particular structure. Modeling what goes over the wall doesn't really matter. What sits on top of this part of the wall doesn't really matter for this modeling, because you're not going to get that close to it. All right, so that's why I stopped right here at the wall, so I didn't have to, notch this wall out. All right, but the other thing to remember is we made this wall 8 inches thick, which is a typical thickness of a U.S. Cement masonry unit or concrete block. They're usually 8 inches wide, 16 inches long, and 8 inches tall. And I'm saying 8 inches, but I'm including the grout that goes between the blocks, okay? The concrete grout. That's what gives you your 8 inches. The blocks are a little less than, they're 3/8 of an inch less than that, okay? But we're not worried about that close of tolerance for modeling for MSFS. All right, so anyway, I'm rambling like I always do. Now, everywhere where there's a truss, this wall needs to be beefed up. Okay, it needs either solid concrete from the top all the way down to the footers in the ground. All right, or they make the metal construction frame first and put a iron I-beam at the ends of each truss, and then they fill in with block. Okay, that's another way that they do that. But in a lot of cases, what they'll do is they will make concrete columns and then set the trusses on top of those columns, and then they fill in with the concrete block. I know this is more information than you really need to know, but if you're going to model buildings, and especially if you don't have any plan drawings that you're working off of, it's a good idea to understand how construction works. I mean, I did construction, so I'm pretty confident on the different methods of doing this. All right. Now, why is this important? Why am I saying that? All right. So we have our starting point, or our 3D cursor, right here at the origin of the actual truss itself. Now, I could simply get out of edit mode now. I can simply edit. I can do a Shift A, and let's add a what am I wanting to add? A mesh single vertice. All right, so now we have a vertice right here, okay? And I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit. There we go. And I want to make sure my edge snap is on, and I'm going to extrude that in the Z direction down till it meets the bottom of the wall. All right. Now, I'm only giving you an example for this part. I'll probably end up deleting it because I think I'm going to do something else. I don't have pictures of the inside of this hangar, so that's why I'm just kind of guessing. Now, if this was a metal framed building, all right, which is what I'm showing you now, is so we have a construction line of that vertical beam set. Now at the bottom, with this vertice selected, we're going to extrude that in the X direction, and we are going to go, I got a 50-50 chance of getting the direction right. Am I going the negative direction? Or am I going? I'm going in the positive direction. All right, so I'm going to make that 1 foot and hit enter. All right. Then usually they will go up. So extrude that in the Z, and we'll snap to the bottom of our beam, just like that. Okay, but they're usually not straight. Okay, I have a cat scratching at the door to my office here. He can just stay out. All right, anyway, now the columns usually aren't straight on the interior. All right, they angle up. So I would take this vertice and I would move that in the X direction. GX, and we'll move it 1 foot. they're usually angled like this. All right. Then we would take these two vertices, hit F to close those with an edge. Okay. Then we'd select all of them, hit F to put a face on that. Now it looks like, well, let's see which way it's going. Whoops. No, I want that off. I got to see which way we're going. Okay, so this is the red, so solidify will actually make it go this direction, which is correct because we're on this side of the beam of the truss. All right, so let's go back, turn this off, turn face orientation off. All right, so now we have a face that's in the right direction. Now I am going to go add a modifier, and we're going to solidify that. And I think we solidified these by what? I think they're 8 inches wide too, right? If I remember, we'll find out. 0.6 is basically inches. Yeah, that's correct. All right, hit enter. All right, so now we have kind of a, oops. There we go. All right, now we have kind of a ghost image. So let's turn that off. So this would give you an idea that the beam, well, not the beam, the column that supports our roof would kind of look like this. All right. Then those are usually in an I-beam configuration as well. All right. So we're going to select face. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to apply my modifier, and I cannot do that in edit mode. So apply modifier. Now it's a true 3D object. All right. Now go to face, select that face, and I think our scale is 1. So we're good with that. Go back into edit mode, and I'm going to hit I, and we made the thickness of our steel 0.083. All right, so we did our inset, and then again, I can't remember let me get my calculator and calculate something. Yeah, now I remember. Okay, so now we want to take this polygon and push it in, right, to make it look like an I-beam type of construction. Remember what we did with these here, right? All right, so that's 0.6 feet thick, but we want to leave in the middle, we want it to be 0.083 feet thick in the middle, right? So we need to subtract the 0.083 from the 0.6, and we get 0.517. But we only want to go half of that, which is the 0.2585. Does that make sense? You guys with me? All right, so with this face selected, we're going to E, and we are going to go, I think, in the negative direction. Negative 0.2585. Okay, so that kind of, there you go. So that kind of gives us that I-beam type of look to it. And then I would do the other side. All right, then I would copy this object, actually I wouldn't copy it, I would mirror it. So so I can get one on the other side, right? All right, so let me find my I gotta get my origin, because my origin of this object is up here right now, right? Okay, so I'm going to get out of edit mode. I'm going to select these interior walls, and that's not the origin that I want. Because if I use that as an origin, it's not going to be centered. So I need to find, there it is, that's the origin I want. One that's in the middle of the actual building, this part of the building itself, not the whole thing, but this part of the main hangar part of the building. So with that selected, I'm going to Shift S, move my cursor to that location. All right, then I'm going to select my column, and I am going to right click. Whoops. Is that right? Oh, no, I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to, wait a minute, something's going on here. Let's do an automatic save. That's all right. Go into edit mode. Get out of edit mode. Why isn't this working? Like I said, I do this live. I gotta figure this out. Let me pause and find out why it's not working. That was an I/O error. Idiot operator. Alright, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to select this object, and I want to right click and change its origin to where I just moved the 3D cursor. I'm sitting here trying to right click and I'm getting nothing. Okay, well, because I'm an idiot. I have the solve space on selection. No, that's not what I want. I want the select box. Got it? I/O error. Idiot operator. All right, so now with my column selected, now I can right click and go to or set origin to 3D cursor. So now my origin of this column is in the middle, basically in the middle of the doorway, which is in the middle of this main part of the hangar, not including the office. Okay, that's what I want. All right, I want that. Now, once you make this column, you move your origin to the center of the hangar in this space. Okay, in this case, then we're going to add another modifier. So we're going to come in modifier, add modifier, and we're going to mirror. And we're going to mirror in the X direction, so it puts one on the other side of the hangar. All right. Then if I was going to use this method to make my vertical columns, if it was not vertical, it would not be a column, it would be a beam. Okay. Now, if this was the method I was making the columns to hold up our trusses, I would, let's pretend I did both sides of the column with the I-beam look. I'll apply that modifier, so now both of these are now 3D objects. And then I would add that array modifier. Okay, and we are doing a constant offset. And notice that the offset is not really going to work. Well, yeah, it will. Let's make that 0. And make that 20. No, I did 10 feet, didn't I? 10 feet. Okay, just like that. And then I would increase the number of them, so I get columns under each one. Now the last one I would have to move in because we moved this last truss in because the distance from here to here was less than 10 feet. All right. So anyway, that's what I would end up doing. I would go ahead and apply that modifier. And then I would, go into edit mode and select this column. And I gotta do X-ray so I get everything selected. That column and this column. Zoom in. Make sure that my snap is set, but I need an edge, so I'm going to go to edge and shift select that top edge right there. So that's my active edge, and I want to move it in the Y so it's even with this spot, with this end of the truss here. So we GY and we are even with it. I just selected this one that's coming down. So now that beam, that column is right below this truss. All right. Then get out of edit mode. And then let's turn off ghost and see what that looks like. All right. So that's one method of making the columns that hold up the roof. Now, is that how this building was built? I have no idea because I don't have any pictures on the inside. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this object and we're going to call this I-beam columns. Okay. Hit period. There we go. All right. And we'll decide later if that's the method that we want to use. Okay. Another way to do this is, let's turn off the I-beam columns. All right. Another possible way that this was constructed is that the I-beam or the column, whether they did it with concrete columns or they did it with I-beam columns, that they actually casted them inside the wall. All right. However, that column needs to be thicker than the 8 feet. They're usually a foot thick, right? So if we took this wall, which is 8 inches thick, we need to add a bump on the inside of the building that brings it out to a foot. Okay, but it's a concrete column. All right. So what we're going to do with these two exterior walls selected, I'm going to go into edit mode because there's different parts to them. All right. There is the interior wall and then there's the exterior wall. All right. So I'm going to select the interior walls of both sides. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to hit P, make a new selection, and period, and come down to outside sidewalls, and we're going to call those interior. And let's get rid of the 001. Okay, so now we have interior walls. They're a separate object. All right, so let's get out of edit mode, select our interior wall. Now we're going to do a series of loop cuts. Okay, so we're going to come up here and we want to make sure that we're edge select, because we want it to select this edge and this edge. And we're going to do some loop cuts. So I'm going to go into edit mode And I'm going to Control R. And it actually should be, you can't see it. It's loop cutting in the middle of the walls, the first loop cut. All right, so I'm going to hit Escape, zoom out, and I'll do that loop cut again, Control R. Notice how it's on the middle of the wall. Okay, so if I'm zoomed in, I'm not going to see that, right? But that's okay. You just need to know that it's doing that. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do Control R, select this top edge. When I click, then the cursor is going to move to that location. All right. Now I'm going to slide this over until it snaps to my edge of my truss and click. All right. Now I want another one on this side. So I'm going to Control R here. Got my loop cut, click, and select that edge. So now I have a loop cut, two loop cuts that are directly below my truss. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more. So I'm going to Control R. Remember, it's going to be the middle. So click, and there it shows up. And I'll click there. Control R, click, slide that over till it snaps there. All right. And I'll do one more. All right. So I'm going to Control R, click, and snap. Control R and click and snap. All right. So now I have those. All right. Now the next step that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to extrude these thin polygons out, the difference, a quarter of a foot basically. All right, because my wall is already 8 inches thick and I need a foot thick of concrete, right? So, but I don't want it, if I selected this face, it selects the face behind the I-beam, okay? I mean, behind the truss, but I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another loop cut that is even with the bottom of our trusses. So I'm going to Control R, and I want it to go this way. So I click and drag up until I'm snapping to the bottom of my truss. All right. Then I'm going to go into Face Select, and I'm going to select this face, shift this face, shift this face. All right. And I'm going to extrude that out a quarter of a foot. All right. So I'm going to E.25. All right. So that gives us our concrete columns that are, so the concrete, it's solid concrete from the footing of the building all the way up to the truss. All right. But it has to be a foot, at least a foot thick, right? So that's why this wall being 8 inches plus the quarter of a foot. So from here to the inside of the office wall, okay, is a foot thick. All right. So I gave you two different ways that you give the appearance of some kind of support, and we just have to choose which method we want to go. I am probably pretty confident that this is the method that this building uses because of the age of the building and construction kinds. If this was a modern hangar, like a post barn type of building, then it would use that I-beam version that we created the first time. It would be this version. All right. This is more of a modern construction. And since this building was probably built in the 1950s or 60s, if not earlier, it's probably using the concrete method like this. All right. So I think for this particular model, I'm going to use this method. So what I'm going to do is I'll have it done by the next time, is I'm going to continue the process that I did to create these little loop cuts here all the way down. All right. And then do the same thing on the other side. All right. And I hope you guys pick something up from this, and I will see you guys on the next videos. Please subscribe, hit the notification bells, and if you feel inclined to support what I do, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld. Hey, you guys are fantastic, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.